Some Seminarians is proudly brought to you by the Vocation Office of the Archdiocese of San Antonio.
Howdy. Welcome to our podcast, or thing that this is. So we are excited to welcome you, and I'm Robert Shelton. I'm a seminarian for the Archdiocese of San Antonio. I'm joined with my good friend Luis here, and my other good friend Dustin, seminarian for Archdiocese of San Antonio. And this is y'all's first year, right?
First year, yeah.
I'm getting a look that I need to have my fake microphone. Because our talk is about courage, and I should have courage to use this. I need courage to please let you continue on introducing yourself.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, like Robert was saying, my name is Luis, and I'm a first-year seminarian for the Archdiocese of San Antonio. This year, I was doing something we call the propedeutic year, which is a year of preparation before going into full year and seminary formation. So, just happy to be here with Dustin, who is also in my class. Hi, Dustin.
Hi, Dustin Martin. First year seminarian propedeutic program. First time doing a podcast. So just have mercy on me. But yeah, born and raised in San Antonio, and excited to be here and talk to Robert.
Fantastic. Y'all are stuck with me for 30 minutes.
Yay.
But our topic of discussion, I feel so weird holding this, is courage. And what is courage? That's really the question of the day. And, courage is, of course, a virtue, right? And also a fundamental, nature of discernment and vocation, not just in our lives to religious life, but also for the Christian life as well. And so I think y'all already broached a good aspect of courage in our lives, which is discernment, right? Which is the propedeutic program y'all have just entered and completed, and now starting your first full year of academic studies in seminary. And so maybe y'all could start us off on, some of the courage that goes into saying yes and to starting the process.
Sure, I guess I can get us started. So, yeah, like you're saying, Robert, it can be rather daunting or scary to take a step towards something that might be unknown to you, that you're not sure this is what God might be calling you to, but you do it with the trust and the hope in the Lord, because what you want to do is you want to discover His will for you. And so, like you're saying, it takes what we would call courage, and something that could be frightening, something that could be unknown or uncertain. Just take a step in faith, take a risk, knowing that there could be something good on the other side.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, this cord I'm going to have the courage to disconnect this since it doesn't work. Yeah, I think in any aspect of life there can be that trepidation and fear of you don't know what's on the other end, right? And both of y'all are former at one point career military, right? And so I'm sure you're not neither one of you is a stranger to that concept of not knowing what's to come, down the line and just the aspects of your life, right? But I'm sure it's a huge unknown entering to what is seminary, what is formation. And I think in the Christian life, right, that's true too, right? That's one of the critical aspects of faith. But I think it's fantastic y'all have taken these steps. And Dustin, if you want to speak to that too, some of the was there any fears or unknowns coming into this?
Well, I think that's a great point. Courage can be seen in different ways too. They say that courage is actually the heart of all virtues, because without it, you don't even take the first steps. So it's kind of the heartbeat of everything coming together. And in our time in the military and overseas, everyone thinks of courage of running into buildings or firemen, and those are amazing different types of courage. But it also takes courage to be a school teacher. You got to get up every day and go take care of these children who may or might not listen to you, but you got to give them your heart and your time and then it drains you. So there's different levels of courage of different natures, but coming into this was different. Like we said, after our time, the unknown of letting go, because everyone always says, oh man, you're giving this up and that up. But you don't look at it like that, because I didn't choose this. I didn't wake up one day and say, hey, I'm going to be a priest. No, it was a long process of constantly being called and me trying to run, and then when, just slowly trying not to run anymore. So that courage to say, okay, Lord, what is it you really want me to do? Because everything I'm doing isn't working. It's not working out for me. It's making my life harder. I'm miserable. So what do I have to do? Well, the first step was have the courage to stop doing what I was doing. And I built 30 years of bad habits you have to start undoing. Also, that takes time and courage, just to face yourself and just slowly kind of just allow God to work in your life and get out of your own way. That's difficult. And so, of course, the first thing I'm thinking is seminary, not me, not this guy. You don't want me. And yet, every time I try to walk away, it was just another step back toward this situation, back to here. And I finally just said, okay, Lord, yes. And now here I am. So you never know. You never know.
Here I am, Lord, ready to do your will. No, I think that's a beautiful description of courage, especially in the life of seminarians and priests and really all the Christian faithful. I think what you said too was so poignant, that it being the heart of all virtues. And I think in the Christian life, that's so important too, the understanding of the Christian life's not easy. I think a lot of our modern world has kind of sold this notion of, Christianity as being this kind of utopia and, ponies and rainbows kind of experience, right? But I mean, we even look at what Christ said, right, in the Gospel of John, that, if the world hates you, know that it hated me as well, right? And I'm paraphrasing that because I'm always terrible at memorizing scripture. But I think it's so important to know that the Christian life really is against the world. I mean, from the smallest step of, just living the life or being active, right, part of the church. I mean, it's so critical. Courage is so critical and so necessary for faith to prosper. I mean, I think of, all the saints and martyrs of history. I mean, how much courage they had. I think it's easy to think of like Saint Stephen, the first martyr, right, who just had the courage to sit there and get stoned, right? Or some of these martyrs against some of the Muslim conquests. There's history's filled with these stories. Right. But to me, the stories of courage and saints that inspire me the most is just like what you're saying, the courage to change your life. I mean, that's not easy. It's not easy to give up 30 years of habits, like you're saying, or even me, like, habits I have. I mean, it was hard for me just to quit drinking energy drinks. I mean, and let alone, these habits and things in our life. I don't know if you want to, I know you were looking up some definitions earlier about courage. I don't know if you want to throw in there.
Yeah, some basic definitions is just having the strength to face, like we were saying, face something that could be painful or something that could bring sorrow, or having the strength to go through something that is going to be difficult. Just a very simple definition, but we can see it in our everyday lives, like you guys are saying. Like Dustin is mentioning that it's different kinds of courage. It can look in different ways. And one way, like you're saying, for the military, can look a certain type of courage. But then an everyday job, like getting up in the morning. For those that don't know, Dustin was his school teacher. That's why he's mentioning the example of getting up in the morning and getting ready to go and knowing that he's going to go meet with these children that need to be educated. They need to learn the things that they don't know about. And there's so many voices out there, so many things that could guide them in the wrong direction. But having the courage, like you're saying, having that strength to say, it's going to be difficult to teach them the good things, but you choose to do it because it's the good thing, is the right thing to do. So yeah, I would say that's a pretty good example that you were giving earlier.
Yeah, absolutely. I think again, just these simple, everyday, struggles we go through, right, and having the courage to meet them is so critical in our lives, to always be cognizant in ourselves and cognizant of what others go through, right, to to do things for us, right? The courage, like our parents, right? Having to wake up every day, get you to school. I mean, I think we, in our lives, I'm speaking generally, I think many people, we take for granted the struggles others undergo for our behalf.
Right.
I mean, it's easy in the Christian life to say, like, yeah, Christ suffered for us, which is true, right? I mean, that's the focal point of all our salvation is the cross. But I also think, too, of the handing down of the faith and the sacrifices our forefathers made in the faith, right, to get us to where we are right now, or even those priests and people in our lives, those saintly figures who inspired us. I mean, the sacrifice they made, like, the person doing faith formation on Sunday, right, was a volunteer.
Yeah, yes, religious, the catechism. We're doing VBS right now. I love VBS with those kids. We have almost 200 kids. It's amazing, but couldn't do it without the volunteers, the parents who are the backbone of it, but then also the amazing high schoolers and the middle schoolers who are helping us with the little ones. It's because they can connect easier. So of course you have the older adult, but those middle schoolers, the little ones, they have more energy and time with them, and they just watch them, and you can see them watching each other, and so it's like someone's always watching you, and yes, God. But someone's always paying attention to you, if you know it or not. And someone's learning. If you have brothers and sisters, especially younger children, or even your own kids, they are watching you. So it takes courage to do the right thing always, because that is our faith itself too. That is our heartbeat. That is what we were called to do, be holy. And so that takes courage to be holy, because it's easy to give up. The world, like you said, comes at every angle. Everything's trying to fight for your attention. Everything wants you to look here and do this. And is most of it right? Not really. Everything wants you to spend your money here, give me your time, watch this, do this, instead of spending time with them or going places and doing the right thing. So it's just like full circle, because it's also the backbone of fortitude. And I think they're very close in hand. Those, giving your life is like the ultimate sacrifice of courage, but without that courage and fortitude, you're not gonna die for someone else. You're not gonna protect another human being. You're gonna be like, my life is more important. So they're all like interlooped, and yeah.
No, absolutely. I think the other thing you brought up in there that's so important about courage is, courage isn't just a one-off affair, right? It's easy to be brave for a moment, but it's really difficult to be consistent in strength, right? And I think again the saints of our church have proved this, right? And really it's the inspiration of the unwaveringness, right? In the face of constant persecution, in the face of or just constant struggles of our life and society, right? The constant struggle to stay holy and stay committed to Christ. I mean, that's the moving, powerful, example and witness that even you spoke about, that witness of doing the right thing constantly. I mean, that's what inspires people. So what do you think, Luis?
Yeah, I like how you're mentioning, Robert, sometimes we can think of courage as in a moment, right? Like we find ourselves with a situation where it requires for us to make a decision, and maybe in that moment we're like, yeah, when that time comes, if the time comes, then I'll make sure to make the right decision. But exactly the way that you're saying it, in order for us to be prepared for that, we have to work in the small things. Because if we work the small things in our prayer life, like you're mentioning, if we stay consistent, if we, I said, make sure that I'm waking up in the morning, spending my time with the Lord, I'm making sure that I am staying connected to my brother seminarians, that I'm going to mass every day, like whatever it is that is bringing you close to the Lord. If you're faithful in those small things, when the time comes for you to make that decision in a moment of difficulty, like big hardship, then it won't be as difficult to take that step, because you've been practicing, you've been preparing for it your whole life. So yeah. Yeah,
absolutely. That reminds me of one of my favorite stories of martyrdom in history, which I'm forgetting the name. The martyrs of Smyrna or Semes, or it was an area in what is today Turkey. This is all used to be Greek, population, and that's one of the first areas Christianity spread to. And so there was a group of Christians. I believe some of the story goes that they might have been Roman soldiers themselves. And they were basically, these have been Christians. They were obviously known in the community. They were all rounded up, and it was middle of winter. And so they got forced into the freezing lake and were basically told, hey, like we're gonna have you freeze to death unless you renounce, right, and you make offers to the gods, and they kept refusing, right, and they kept refusing for hours. And the Roman soldiers of the pagans, they built fires on the beach, and they had baths of water and hot water, and they said, come on, and trying to encourage them. And eventually got to the point they were like feeling bad, they were dying, like come on, join. And eventually, actually, their witness that slow death, because it takes a while to freeze to death. I mean, y'all got training in in hypothermia training stuff right in the military, right?
No, I didn't go Navy SEALs.
You didn't go Navy? No, but I thought
I was in the basic Army.
I don't know. My brother told me stories of being forced to do, but he was a Marine. They're crazy, right? No. You were smart. You did Air Force.
They're tough. Marines are tough.
Yeah, you guys got air conditioning.
We got chairs. We got desks. We got computers.
Got chairs. Did you get chairs?
Well, I mean, they were called e-tools, or those little shovels we unfold and we could put. No, we had chairs.
Well, back to the story. So these, they're freezing to death slowly, right? So they're talking to the soldier, and finally, it was a couple of the Roman soldiers who were so inspired by that long-term, constant witness of these Christians dying, right? Just staying steadfast in who they were, that they went and got martyred with them and were baptized in the freezing water as those martyrs were dying of hypothermia. So I think, that's, of course, a grandiose example. But even like, Teresa of the Little Flower, which we have a basilica dedicated to her in San Antonio, right? Yeah. Teresa Lisieux, right? That she was often called sometimes the saint of the small things. That doing small things with great holiness is really how you change the world. And I think that's the testament you guys are going to have as you're going through formation, right? As examples to the younger guys, right? I mean, because we got a lot of young guys now coming into seminary, 19, 20, 21 years old, and y'all have a lot of experience, a lot of testament of courage in your lives. I think you're gonna really share with them over the years. I don't know how you guys want to respond to this. This is
And I think courage is also building the gift of discernment, because it's not just I see a burning building, let me run in there and I'm gonna be a hero. It also comes with not compulsiveness. It's not just let me try to do, but it's discerning the right situations and when to step up or when to step down. It takes courage. If you know you love being in charge and you're in charge of everything all the time, but you give an opportunity to someone else to take that step up, that's courage too, helping them build their courage. And anyone who's like, oh, I don't have courage or I can't do this, that's like a self-impediment that we create in ourselves, because God is always willing to grace us with the virtues that we need and with all his love and grace for us. Sometimes we just need to ask, but I think he loves watching us try to build things up because it gives us our accomplishment. And we can't do it on our own, but we say, like, I don't have the courage to get up and go and do this thing. Well, why do you think you lack courage, though? Is it out of fear of something else? It's usually a hardening of something else from another source. And then so it blocks you from seeing the truth in what you're actually trying to accomplish. So don't think you can't have courage in your life. I'm a coward. I'm scared. I'm this. I'm that. At some point in time, we've all been scared of something. Courage isn't not being scared. It's not being afraid. It's not reacting, oh, I should have done that. But it's learning and discerning too. And it's not just compulsiveness or I'm a hero. Because, not everything comes to that conclusion. So I think make sure that it is something you want to grow in. Because like we said, it feeds into everything else. But also know that you are capable of growing in it. Don't count yourself out because you're like, oh, I've never been a policeman. I've never been in the military. I've never been to war. Those are things that certain people are called to, and then you grow in it. When I first went in, I was scared. I had to, okay, Lord, I need to step up. I need to build this. It's a building block. And sometimes the grace just flows in and you're like, oh, I'm invincible, which is dangerous too. But then again, you have those moments of weakness, which is actually making you stronger. And that's when we just need to rely on it and say, okay, Lord, you got this, and I got this with you. Yeah.
No, absolutely. I think in summary, right, that is the question of false courage, right, which is often as, pride is the root of all evil, right? Well, what is the antithesis of pride? Well, it's humility. And oftentimes, too, in courage, right, it's often taken into the aspect and component of glory, right? And glory is dangerous if it's for the self or for an ideology. It's only glory in Christ that is actually good and true. And so I think you're touching on a very wise thing to be aware of, that again, we often think courage is only something that happens when you're facing some form of foreign adversity or some form of interior adversity, right? Like I'm a sinner in this category, so I'm gonna have courage in that. Well, no, sometimes it's just being humble, right? Sometimes it's being willing to listen to others when you're thinking like, no, I don't want to listen to this. Or sometimes it's taking a step back, right? Or sometimes it's just being self-aware, which is sometimes the hardest thing ever. Even in the study of psychology, right? That self-awareness is typically the first thing that's actually pushed. That you can't, it's the same adage with a problem, right? You can't solve a problem until you recognize you have one. And if you're not courageous enough to look interiorly and say, oh, I have a tendency to do X, Y, and Z, right, then maybe I should not do those things. And so I think that's so critical in discernment, as you were talking about, Luis, that then discernment, right, being courageous to ask questions, to delve further, to, strive on the Christian path. And you can't do that if you're not self-aware.
Yeah. And so following what you're saying, I'm glad that this year, Propedeutic, it's been helping us a lot on that. So this first year of formation is dedicated to mainly focused on two of the pillars of priestly formation, which are the human formation and the spiritual formation. And in that human pillar is where we're looking constantly about exactly what you're saying, Robert, of who am I, right? How did I get here? Where do I come from? Why do I do the things that I do? Learn about myself, so that I can, once that I understand myself and the things that I struggle with, that once that I start noticing, oh, there's some issues that I need to work through in my life and in myself. There's some wounds that I've been carrying with me. Then your eyes are open. But if you can't see those wounds in yourself, if you haven't done work in your own life, how are you expected to help someone else that might be next to you needing some advice or someone to guide them in a struggle? It's going to be completely blinded to you. So yeah
absolutely.
That was a big one for me, because like I said, I basically lived two different lives. But that self-awareness was almost like a punch in the face, because I lived such a certain way, and then God came into my life and I look back on it. But the biggest question was, why did I do the things that I'm doing? But before then, I just did them. Even if I didn't really like it, I just kind of did them, and it didn't bother me, and it was just kind of just kept on doing it. Because then after a point, we dug that trench to where we've been doing it for so long. So the courage to finally actually be honest with myself, and the outside sources are always going to say, why did you do that? But we ignore them because we're like, why are you looking at me? Don't worry about what I'm doing. But until it came to me, it was just like, why do I do these things? And then I realized I was just hurting myself. All I did was hurt myself and those around me, and I wasn't happy. So yeah, that's the pending courage, and that was just, don't be afraid to better yourself. Realize that it's okay to better yourself, because that means I am weak somewhere. And so taking those steps to try to figure out, how do I work in this area? Isn't like owning up to something like, oh man, well if I say I'm this, then it becomes true, and then this is all I am. Better yourself, and don't be afraid of it, but do it with God, because it's not pride if you're just trying to make yourself a better human being for your own sake and those around you, making yourself happier and bringing that joy into your life. Don't be afraid to be honest with yourself. That was a huge lift off of me, because I didn't like myself. But I didn't have the courage to stop doing the things I was doing until it was just like, okay, hey, this is it, man. You got to stop this. So
absolutely. Yeah. Ignorance is bliss.
Yeah.
Ignorance is bliss. Yeah. I mean, and I think that's something that I hear all the time, as I've been in seminary many years, and and done ministry in many different environments is, oh, Catholic guilt, oh, you Catholics just love to guilt people into things and whatever. And it's like, well, no, it's because you feel guilty by forming your conscience. Yeah. Right now, there's scrupulosity, which is a mental illness, right? But that's not really what the stereotypical Catholic guilt is. It's just that if you're aware of your weaknesses, well, you're going to constantly want to improve it. And, you know, it's like the story of the kid, like I'm drinking Dutch Bros coffee right now, like the story from the Netherlands of the kid who puts his finger in the dam to prevent the water, right? I mean, you could just ignore it, but eventually that tidal wave is going to you know, destroy the whole town. Or you could, no, okay, I got this minor little thing. It could be a bigger problem. And so I need to address it and get help, right? Which is what the point of the story is, right? And so I think that's a very beautiful way you frame that, right? That no, you know, weakness isn't necessarily a bad thing. Weakness is the acknowledgement of I need to improve somewhere, and that I need to grow, and that I need to have the courage to better myself. And I know there's a lot of self-help stuff going on right now. Like, what is it who's that guy, the Navy SEAL guys, the Goggins and all those? I don't know. I just hear it all the time, right? Our camera master guy is shaking his head, yes, that I got this correct, which means I'm hip to all you watching this. Just know that I have the courage to keep up with things. But yeah, so I mean, I listen to all these guys. Or who's the other guy, the crazy guy, Andrew Tate, or whatnot. Like, these guys have a notion of that courage is bashing yourself into some sort of improvement, right? That it's destroying viciously destroying your old self, or viciously destroying all weakness in yourself. But it's really, that's actually the acknowledgement of your weaknesses that you can grow. So I love, you know, my last story I'll wrap this up with. I know we're supposed to be talking about saints and things, but I love mythology. Mm-hmm. And Achilles is one of my favorite, you know, if you guys are familiar with the story of Achilles, go watch the Brad Pitt movie, Troy. Nice. But what really made Achilles so great was he knew what his weakness was, which was his heel, right? That's where we get the name Achilles tendon from, right? He knew that was the only way he could be defeated. And so if you know what your weakness is, you can be confident in your strengths. And so using our strengths in the Christian life, you know, if it's that, hey, I am very self-aware, or maybe it's I have a really great prayer life, and leaning into that to help compensate for your weaknesses is really how we build up the Christian character. And so any final thoughts on that, my crazy sayings or jokes in this talk we're having?
I just want to thank you for them.
I feel like you just had the courage to placate me right there.
Yeah. Thank you for this opportunity and this chance to meet with you on my first time. So,
if I may say, it takes courage for us to be sitting here talking in front of cameras about this. So, yeah, like Dustin's saying,
we're getting sunburn here. I can just feel it. You know, all these lights, so artificial. But no, we want to thank y'all for joining us. Thank you for the courage of listening to our rantings.
How many times did we say courage? I lost count.
Hopefully we'll have a counter for you.
I don't think someone has the courage to count it. That's too much counting, you know. But anyways, as I stare off and do the biz, I want to thank y'all for joining us as we discussed the word that we're not going to say, so someone doesn't have to count it again. But thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of this. And thank you, Luis and Dustin. And we hope to see y'all in many more of these episodes, things.
Follow us on social media.
Oh yeah, have the courage to follow us on social media. Reddit. Do we have Reddit? We don't have Reddit. Don't follow us there. Do we have MySpace? Don't follow us there. What do we have? Facebook and Instagram. Do we have Snapchat? Is Snapchat social media, or is that a messaging thing? We have Snapchat.
I'm the wrong person.
We don't have Snapchat. We have email. Okay, we have email. All right, follow us on all those. God bless. Y'all are in our prayers. Stay dry.